Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Dance Talk Realness, a podcast where we discuss all nuances concerning education and dance, because a dance experience is an experience worth talking about. I'm your host, Truly B, here with my awesome, as always, co-host, Daryl P. Hey. And we are welcoming for a repeat our special guest, Miss Ariana Matthews. Yay!
Hey!
Round of applause. Thanks for making time for us yet again.
Of course.
We love having you. And today we are going to touch on a topic that Ariana brought up to us that we all have experienced at some point throughout our dance journeys, and that has impacted how we've moved forward, and that is trauma in dance. So if you can give just a little insight into kind of what triggered this being a topic of discussion for you, and then we'll just hop right on into it.
Absolutely. So again, I feel like all my stuff just stems from college. Like that's where you get the realest stuff. I know for me, it was definitely our conversation, just talking about how and what people say or have said to us in the past as young dancers, young Black dancers, young Black female, young Black male dancers, kind of being thrown and now involved in this larger dance program. So I know for me personally, my wheels were really turning after last week. We had the conversation about something a professor said that was a little, off color. Mm-hmm. And then that took me back to when I barely knew him. He made another remark. So my freshman year in college was definitely not the easiest. Just a lot of stuff going on personally with school. Just didn't think I was going to make it day to day. That October of my freshman year, so first 2 months in college, I lost my grandmother. She was the rock of our family. I literally couldn't even wake up and come to class. If I did, I would just maybe do half, sit down. I ended up taking some time away from school for about 2.5 weeks, coming back. And I remember when I came back, it was that time for midterm kind of check-ins and evaluations. This professor told me that he saw so much potential and a little bit of improvement in me, but his words verbatim were, "Grandma's gone. You need to get over it. And let's get you to where you can be." And
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Who does that? And why would you do?
You see me struggling physically, mentally, emotionally, and you thought that was the biggest thing that you could say, or the best thing you could say. You thought that telling me let's get over it and get you to that point was going to help, when in actuality that stayed with me all 4 years. Me wanting to create pieces or wanting to work with this guest artist or this student artist was based around those ideas that I had of either my relationship with my grandmother, who my grandmother was as a person. And I just always felt like, even though that was good for me to do and just kind of grieve and work through that trauma, I was always kind of talked down upon, or you could do so much more. Why is this always your go-to? And just criticism after criticism. And that was, oh my God, that was 2013. That was 8 years ago. And I still struggle with that today. And even trying not to pass on to my kids, it's okay, or, passing on to them that it's okay to express it as many times as you need. Talk to me about it, cry to me about it, work with someone else. But I would never tell you to just get over it. Use that as your fuel. And I know there's so many other things, but that's the biggest one that has really made me feel okay, now sometimes I've got to stifle my emotion and what is really happening here and here before I can put it all out somewhere physically. It's just, it's interesting.
Yeah, I think it's interesting being in this entertainment field, or in a field of the arts, because it's, I think we all come from the mentality of the show must go on, right? And I think a lot of our teachers, even though we're, high school, college age people at those points, that like, as a professor or as a teacher, you have to understand that we're not at that adult mindset or that adult stage of having ways to cope with things. And I can even, I don't think I've ever said anything like that, but I can definitely know that I've been guilty of my students having things happen in their lives or come up that I'm thinking, like, not that I don't care, but almost like, come on, like, you knew that. I mean, obviously nothing like a death in the family or anything like that, but definitely things that come up that, like, to me, I don't see them as maybe big deals, but, maybe for them they are, whether it's a friendship that is torn apart or a boyfriend, girlfriend that has broken up with them, even in this day and age too, it still irks me when people say, oh, hey, I can't come to this performance because I have to work. And I'm just thinking, well, you had this date forever, but not knowing that I don't know why you have to work. I don't know why that work is important to you. Maybe that work is important. And if you miss that day, your family doesn't eat, your mom doesn't eat. Maybe you have a child and your child does not eat, And so I think we're asking our students to be really responsible, and we're asking them to be financially responsible, emotionally responsible, even though maybe at their age, they've never been taught how to do those things and how to grasp with, moving on, like from a death, instead of saying, get over it. Hey, how can I help you cope with these things? What are some ways that, I understand your grief, I understand your sadness, right? And I'm just here for you, right? Even if it's like, let's get back to the rehearsal, take a minute to have a moment, because I totally understand. Even if you don't understand, I know where you're coming from, or I want to understand, and I want to give you that time to be in this moment. But still let them know the work that needs to be, because I feel like at the bottom line, that was what he was trying to tell you, is that the work goes on. And as an adult now, we all know that the work must go on. But saying that to a 15-year-old, an 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, hell, sometimes even a 22-year-old, like, it just isn't the place.
It's not the time or the place. Exactly. And I think, like, definitely agree with everything you're saying, that if you had maybe just taken 2 minutes to say, how are you feeling? Like, tell me a little bit about what's been going on the last 2 weeks since you've been away from campus, instead of just, giving me a backhanded compliment a little bit and then expecting us to have a good relationship moving forward. I can't trust anything that you're really going to say now as a mentor or an advisor, because you just kind of disregarded something that was or someone who was so important to me. And like, I wouldn't even be here if it weren't for them. And like, I think it's just, now, how do we create this environment where we don't even need to be open about the trauma beforehand, but how can we create non-traumatic environments moving forward? Like, how can we speak in ways that are not going to create emotional, spiritual trauma?
Yeah, I think one of the things is that acknowledgement of everyone grieves differently. And to Daryl's point, then also from the educator perspective, that yes, I've made it to a point in life where I know what works for me when I'm in that process, and I know what I need to do, but that doesn't mean that that's what you need to do and what's going to work for you. And grief usually does not happen within a set time frame.
Nope.
Like, it's not like, you know what? Yes, someone passed. I'm sad for a couple weeks. And then it's like, okay, all right, I'm good. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, you can be good one day and then overwhelmed for the next month.
Yep.
And then you have a great month. And then there's one day that it just all comes slamming back into you again. And so I think just giving people that grace of, okay, you know what? Today just may be a day that you're trying to cope. So if you need a minute, go ahead, step out for a little bit, go get some water, breathe, do what you need to do, try to come back in if you can. And that is a space that I've always tried to give my students, regardless of what that trauma could be, because similar to what Daryl was saying, like that whole, you got to work the night of the concert. I'm like, but baby, I gave you this date 4 months ago. Like, to where I put it in my syllabus that I was like, hey, if you work, I need you to let them know in advance.
Like right now.
That this is a date, that you have something. You cannot work this day. You can work every other day. I was like, even because usually the rehearsals were required, I was like, I'll give you a rehearsal. Mm-hmm. You cannot miss the concert.
Yep.
And the pushback from parents, because sometimes it was a case of everybody in that house that was able to work needed to be working for survival. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I respect that. I'm like, however, you're also going to bitch me out if your kid fails. So I was like, what they're doing at this concert is not extracurricular, honey. Mm-hmm. This is a grade. This goes on their transcript. I was like, so I understand. I was like, but also I'm giving you advance notice because I understand, because I respect the fact that people have other things going on. I'm like, if you've known since August, September that we got this concert in December, you had all those months to find transportation, to request time off, to let me know if something was going on. I think for me, and I think you were starting to touch on this, Ariana, is communication. Mm-hmm. And for me, I think that communication does need to be both directions. Mm-hmm. It may be more heavily one direction than the other in some moments, which is natural. But if you don't ever let me know something has happened, then I don't know. And there's nothing I can do. Right. And on the flip side, I need to also communicate, okay, I understand. These are the concessions I can make. However, these are still some things that are like hard deadlines. I need you to do this. I can see your ability to do this. If you need my assistance, let me know. And just like having that space, specifically just having the space where dialogue can even happen. And like, because I feel you on that. Like, yeah, no, if someone came to me like that initially, then yeah, there's no way in hell for the remainder of my time with you that I'm ever going to feel like I can really have that dialogue, because I'm always going to wonder, okay, but are they going to say this time? Mm-hmm. Is it going to go this way? Like, can I really express myself when I'm creating? Like, I've encouraged students to use their work to work through stuff that I'm like, dance that thing out, choreograph it. I was like, you want to dedicate this to your grandmother, to your sister, to your aunt, to like this distant cousin that you just connected with, and do what you do.
Do it.
I just need your music to be school appropriate. Like, that's all I'm asking for. I was like, but use this. So to kind of to slight you for that, as an artist, I don't understand that, because I'm like, but why would I not use my art for this?
Like, isn't that what it's created for us to like express ourselves, for us to learn about ourselves, to learn with one another, to communicate with one another? So if that's something that I'm struggling with, and I can go talk to my 2 friends or a senior who has dealt with something like this and can help me with choreography or just getting it out in some type of creative way, that's what I'm going to focus on. But for you to not give the space and like safe environment, I think is so dangerous. Mm-hmm. Yes. In a way. Like I said, it's stifling. And I really, of course, people are still going back and forth about this whole Simone Biles thing. And like, so what if she had the twisties and the twisties is not real, blah, blah, blah.
She could die.
But like, even if she didn't have the twisties, something is going on and she needs a minute. So you need to let her deal with whatever happened 6 months ago, 6 years ago, or 6 days ago. She can call it whatever she wants. It can be labeled whatever she wants, but know that if she takes the time to chill, she's going to come back better. But she also felt comfortable getting it out because of all the support that she was getting when she was up here. And then y'all just kind of shat on her when she felt like she was at her lowest. It's like, we need to find the balance, and again, just make it safe, like make it inviting for us to do what we desire to do, like for you, for your entertainment, for your leisure, your pleasure. It's just, I'm just scared that it's going to get worse with the way the world is going.
It's like, it's this mentality that like people like that, you know, even as there's like this idea that there are people that are superhuman, that are perfection. And like, when we view people that way, either in the media or even if it's, you know, a little bit closer to home, you know, sometimes people aren't given the space to have those moments to still be human. And when those are not, and when that's not acknowledged, I don't know, it's like people have these aspirations of perfection and like wishing, like, I wish I could do that. I wish I want to do that. Right. And then it's like, when you realize that person who can do those things also is still human, then you feel like, well, wait, I thought you were something very different than me. And then there's like this animosity that comes up, like that, oh, why are you just like me? And if you're just like me, why am I not where you are?
Yeah. It's like, don't be mad at me because you didn't do that work. I'm just a normal person who did the work.
Right.
You know, that animosity is real. It'd be like, like folks were legit mad at her. And I'm just like, but these would be the same people, still are, same people, had she went ahead, gotten hurt, would have been like, oh, well, I mean, if you knew, you shouldn't have gone, that was on you. You should have said something, or you should have tried to be safer. And it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So you may as well take care of yourself, because ain't nobody else gonna do it.
Literally. And you know, it's like when people ask you, you know, how are you doing? And you say, oh, I can't complain, but if I did, ain't nobody gonna listen. It's like the same thing. You're not gonna listen to me regardless, because it doesn't benefit you. But just like stop and think for a second. We are all human. We are all trying to do either the same things or something that's going to cross paths and benefit someone else, benefit a certain party. And just like, can we just help each other out? Because like, we're not going to go anywhere if we don't. And it's like, Daryl kind of said this, like, I've never said anything off the wall or backhanded to my kids, but just with the way that things are, and like, you don't know why or the reason for something that's happening, I just want to make sure that I'm giving them the best listener, provider, educator, teacher, so they can give me the best student, whether that's in my class 100% of the time, in my class or outside of the class, and helping others. Like, I just want you to be your best. I'm not here to make you say like 5 years from now, oh God, that dance teacher I had in high school was just awful. Like, I can't trust anything she said, anything she did. And I just, like, people need to realize the power and the effect that their words have. It does not matter who you are, what position you are in, how many good things you've said or done that outweigh the bad. You just don't know. You don't know. Like your own personal thoughts, my personal thoughts anyway, are dangerous. I get trapped in my head, and sometimes it is not cool at all. And it's because of things that people have said or who they've said it to, and it's gotten back to me. And just like,
yeah,
like even as a professional, I'm talking now things that have happened within the last like 2 months that are now almost hindering my excitement and growth for something that hasn't even happened yet. Just know your place, like know your effect.
Yeah,
it hurts and it sucks.
Yeah, I recall, speaking of college professors that have said things off. I mean, maybe with what they thought were good intentions, but not. Like I had one, went to a school in Texas that very big into like really training dance teachers. That was really like our focus of our program. And, I'm in a class with, one other guy who we both thought we were going to teach high school. Like that was our dream, to teach high school dance. And she said to us, she said, as men, she's like, I think it'll be a really tough time for you getting a job. She's like, you definitely probably won't get a job in like a suburban, like a rich area, because people may not want men to be in charge of their daughters or to go on trips or stuff with their daughters. So, you probably want to maybe more look into places like maybe inner cities, like that's where you're really probably are going to find jobs. And I was like, all right, well, maybe that's maybe that's true. Yeah. Which, 14 years in the game and have had 2 jobs that were both are in very rural areas, like very suburban spaces, which I will say one of them was okay. The other one was like it was a small community. The parents were insane. But and then the other one was definitely in like suburbia high school. So, it's one of those things that's like, you might have said that with good intentions to like not get my hopes up, but you don't know that. Like, you only know that from your own thoughts. Maybe she had some type of feelings of men being dance teachers and maybe leaving her daughter or having her daughter be on a trip with a male dance teacher, but it had nothing to do with me and like my education or future job potentials. So
yeah, that assumption, and again, while sometimes it may be, I'll assume that it is meant well, and that's a hard assumption, but it's still a way to deliver said information. Like I have been a good one for students who they're like, yeah, I want to go into education. I'm like, okay, let me talk to you real quick. Let me explain to you how this could go. There's options, there's ways. I was like, if you specifically want to teach in a school system, there are just going to be some roadblocks. I was like, and it has nothing to do with you. It's how the system is set up usually. I was like, so these are things that, think of this when you're looking. I was like, do I recommend? Only if you love it. I was like, if you don't really enjoy doing this, don't do it to yourself. I was like, it will not be worth the stress. But it never came from a place of, okay, well, as a young potential dance educator of color, there may be some areas you may not be able to like really get in, or if you do, it's going to be much harder for you. I'm like, if you work in the fucking States, it's going to be hard for you, honey. So let's move that onto the side. I'm like, you just going to have hard times no matter what you do. I was like, I need you to love this thing. So on those hard days, you have that and that carries you. I was like, but I didn't want to dash their dreams. I wanted to be realistic because people weren't realistic with me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, y'all could have told me, first of all, y'all could have told me about IEPs and 504s. You could have told me. You could have let me know that this could be a thing. You could have taught me about classroom management.
Mm-hmm.
You could have given suggestions of things to do when there is a kid calling me a bitch and refusing to do any work. Mm-hmm. Now, am I saying that there's one solution for all of these things? Of course not, because what works for one student is not going to work for the next. That's a thing. But you could have prepped me for the possibility of this situation. When I first went into a classroom, I was like, oh, y'all for real, huh? Like, these are whole people I'm up in here with. Oh my God. The only benefit I had over colleagues was my mom's a teacher. Well, she's retired now, but my mom was a teacher. So I got to see some of the crazy. My grandmother worked in the school. So I got to see some of it. So I'm like, I had a working idea that I'm like, oh, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Like, that's not going to be a thing. But for it to have not been covered was a problem. I definitely was told I probably wouldn't be able to get a job because if you were married, had tattoos, or had kids, it was highly unlikely. And I'm like sitting in the class and I'm like, so I have all three. Do I need to change my major? Because I'm about to graduate and I just need to know that I'm employable. Please and thanks. Yeah. And I will never forget that because I was sitting to the back left of that classroom by the door. And she was like, 3 things that you need to not do. And I was like, I've done all of it. What do I do now? Is it too late to change? Because I changed my major to this. Like, what do I do? And I'm just like, oh, well, that's discouraging. And throughout student teaching, I didn't matter the time of year. I always had to have on long sleeves. I always had to check my tone. And I was like, y'all, I still get told that, FYI, and I'd be so mad because I'm like, ain't nothing wrong with my tone. Y'all just hear it incorrectly.
Me too. Me too.
I was like, what tone?
You're guilty. Yeah. You feel what I'm saying and do like you're attacked. You're being attacked because you're guilty.
Yes. And I'm like, if it wasn't hitting so hard, you wouldn't be feeling away. So what did you do for it to hit you so hard? Like, what's that old country saying? A hit dog a holler. I'm like, well then baby, I was talking to you. So take the advice. I'm sorry, but I'm also not. But like very much that a friend today actually just posted something about, she's like, I don't understand why people choose oppression. I was like, pause, let's read further. And it was like working in a place that is like that will set those things. She's like, why would you do that to yourself? And I'm like, well, first of all, bills. But I understood the sentiment behind it because I'm also like, but bills. I will put that long sleeve shirt on today if it means I'm gonna get an increase in pay. I would feel the type of way the whole time though. But the idea of that's still being pushed on people, and that's still part of the dialogue going into the field. These are things you can't do. And particularly when we're talking about Black dancers, we still get told a lot of things of don't do this, don't say this, don't be like this, don't do any of these things, and then you'll be okay. And it's like, so don't be me is what you just told me, and that's a problem. And so now I'm spending all this time and energy trying to always rein myself in and always worried about, okay, well, do they see me like this? I want them to see it like this. And is it okay if I choreograph this way? Because I don't want them to think this. And it's like, I don't know that too many other people live that life of having to be on eggshells all the time.
Oh, this is such my life right now.
Like, it sucks so bad. I'm just like, I don't want to. Can we not? Because I would just love to not. And like back to your point of that when you were trying to like choreograph and set pieces, that just kept coming up in you to work through some of that trauma of losing an important figure in your life.
Important.
And for that to be like, oh, well, I mean, there you could do so much more. Okay, well, bitch, you know what? You could also be out my face. Like, what am I not doing? Am I not growing as an artist? Am I not growing like in the skills of like, if I am applying the things that you're teaching me, and this just happens to be the topic that I have chosen, how am I not growing?
I literally, like, I'm hitting all the requirements. I'm checking stuff off the syllabus, like where, and I want to say actually going back to that. So that I was told that freshman year, I really didn't even get to do my piece until junior year. Guess what grade I got on it? A C. A C for the whole course.
Oh, wow.
The whole course, because it was just so, it wasn't out of my box. What did they say? I like still have all my journals and notes for it. It's just like, let it go. Like, let it go. If this is what's helping me, you need to now continue to help me.
I think there's a fine line with that, because I'm a good one. I ain't gonna hold you. I will tell someone, I was like, I need you to push. I need you to get out your comfort zone. But also, that to me isn't necessarily you working in a comfort zone. That's not how I would define that. Like, if you only ever, I'm a hater of ballet. I'm so sorry. I'm not though. Not sorry at all. But if like you only ever insist upon setting ballet pieces, regardless of what the assignment may be, that you're just like, this is all I know. Then I'm like, okay, but baby, we're in a whole program where I'm gonna need you to try to do something else. That I understand that this is your preference and this is where you're the strongest. I get that. I honor that, because modern all day for me. However, try to do something else. And I started making the argument for students that I'm like, okay, I like, take me. Modern's my wheelhouse. That's where I'm comfortable. But maybe there's a section of the dance where it has more balletic influence or it has more jazz influence. That is me pushing outside of my comfort zone, because otherwise, honey, we will be doing floor work. Like, we will do inversions. Like, we're weight sharing. Like, that's what we're going to be doing. But maybe there's a way to implement some of these other things in. I'm like, and that's fine. Some people, I'd be like, okay, you say that's your wheelhouse, then straight classical, then. Give me a straight up traditional classical ballet piece. Give me a straight classical modern, like, be all up in the straight technique of that thing. Because real talk, a lot of people now, that is not what they mean when they say that's their style. I'm like, you have more of the contemporary style, which ain't nothing wrong with it. But if you're paying for the education, get everything you can get. Push. And I say all that to say that ain't got nothing to do with you losing a family member. That ain't got nothing to do with you grieving. Baby, that's not comfortable. So like, me dealing with that and coping with that, I 1000% am not in my comfort zone, because that is hella uncomfortable. Those things are different. Those are different things. So that's mind-boggling to me. Child. Me today would have fought that C. Me today. Me in undergrad would not have. I just would have cried. But
I really do not think sometimes I was going to finish that program. And it's so funny, because when we first got on the call, like, look at what I'm sitting here doing, trying to hang out my darn diploma. Like, because I'm proud of this. Like, even though there were more occasions than one where I was like, I'm sick of this. Like, I'm just gonna switch and do straight education. Like, I'm gonna focus on something else. And I was like, because I'm sick of what they're saying. And it's like my dad says now, you never quit something because of one person. Like, if that's what you can wake up and do every day, no matter how tiring it is, or you can see yourself 20 years from now still doing it and being more successful, you stick with it. And that's where I'm at. So like, yes, those things have sucked and they have hurt and they have brought me down in the past. But like, I know that 15 years from now, I'm going to be one of the greatest dance teachers that I've ever been, like in my community. I know that I'm going to make a difference in lives of men and women that maybe look like me, don't look like me, whatever. And I'm going to be satisfied with what I've done. So, like, continue to say what you have said. I will not give you the recognition when you think you're going to get it, because it's all about me, and just your words just kind of have no influence anymore. They did at one point, but not anymore, because I got to do what's best for me.
Right.
End of the day.
Truth. Very much so. Yeah, it sucks that more people don't operate in that space of let me stay in my lane. If I have something to give you to benefit you, I'm gonna do that. But if my only purpose is to try to knock you down, let me just mind my business. Let me mind the business that pays me.
Yep.
But sadly, there are those people.
There
always. And I learned that lesson the hard way of not quitting something off of one person. I had to learn. And I'm hard headed, so I went through that a couple times. Because I'd be like, but also I don't want to be around you, so bye.
Exactly.
And I'm like, and that's a detriment to me. My students have suffered because of me making that decision before. And also, something I was told is they're like, well, if you keep running to the same thing, there's a lesson you're supposed to be learning that you're not learning. Ooh. And I was like, well, cut me deep, why don't you? That's offensive, but okay, I guess, go off, sis. And I remember, because I was at Northwestern, and my chair told me that. I was like, And when I left, sure enough, same thing happened. I was like, what am I supposed to be learning from this? I was like, because this is annoying. And I think I may have figured out at least one of the lessons I think I was supposed to figure out is this isn't where you're supposed to be. Your job was this. When you finish your job, move on. And I don't like doing that per se. Like I don't even like the process of filling out applications to be able to move on. I mean, like, man, I will stay right here. Because at Northwestern, I definitely stayed there was a group of kids. And I knew I was like, I came over with them. I should have left with them. Yeah. But I was like, it'll be fine. And then it was like hell. And I was like, oh no, okay. I leave, get somewhere else. And it's like, okay. Again, I'm like, okay, I'm going to stay for this point in time. But I was already very much on I think I'm supposed to be in higher ed. I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to still be doing this. I was like, I think I'm supposed to be actively looking. And I put it off. Next year, shit hits the fan. And I'm just like, fine. I'm like, the pay is good enough. The benefits, amazing. I will never get over that. I still miss those benefits. Yeah. But I was like, I don't think I'm supposed to be doing, and I had said that maybe towards the end of being at Northwestern before I got to Bowie. I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be really doing this for too much longer. Like, I enjoy high school because I don't like kids. So I'm like, high school, I'm like, I can talk to you and deal with you in such a way that is closer to me dealing with young adults, because you're technically a young adult.
You're a young adult.
But early on, it was just like, I don't know if I'm supposed to still be doing this. However, every 2 weeks I get this good check. I got benefits. I can do whatever I need to do. If I get sick, I'm good. I'm covered. And so I guess complacency, maybe that could be. Maybe it's that. And so the way I ended up in higher ed was like, I just left. There was no job. I had nothing. I just left. And I was like, Lord, okay, so I got nothing here. Please let somebody call me, please, because I know what I'm gonna do. And right before school was gonna start, I got a call. So I was like, okay, yay. Similar, getting higher ed. I'm like, I can do this a couple years. Last year was like, don't do that again. I was like, no, don't play. Because after that first year, and I had initially gone in like, okay, only going to do this for a year because stupid commute. So we're just going to do that for a year, and then we're going to shoot for something closer. Mm-hmm. And then that second year, I was like, okay, let me stop playing with people. When I know I don't need to be somewhere, then I need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
Because, and so in that sense, I understand my friend's post of choosing oppression. Mm-hmm. I understand it in that specific case, that you can be comfortable enough that you're willing to convince yourself that that trauma is worth it. And let me be clear that I am now approaching the point in life that I'm like, no level of comfort is worth trauma. Because if I'm being traumatized, am I really comfortable?
No.
So I'm like,
That is a word.
Like, yeah. Because shit was traumatic. And it's just like, would it have been rough to have left sooner? Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's always hard transitioning into something else. Well, usually hard. Sometimes it'd be working out pretty great. But no amount of comfort is worth trauma, because you can't be comfortable being traumatized. Like that's a false sense of comfort. Mm-hmm. Like that's if you have to question everything all the time, and like you're questioning yourself and you can't even trust yourself, that's not comfortable.
That's not it.
Like that's not the place you want to sit and dwell in. And it's like, okay, the biggest loss I took from leaving the school system is the people I worked with, which we still be hanging out. So that was my biggest concern, that I was like, but my friends though. And I'm like, but I have all of your numbers.
They're still going to be your friends.
Still going to be your friend. We still talk. We still hang. We still do stuff. So I'm like, oh, well, hell, you was worried about that for what? I was like, of all the things to be stressed about, that's what was stressing you? Child, you still talk to them. I was like, and I'm positioning myself in a place where I can benefit their kids more than what I could have done had I stayed put. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, when you see a way out of it, get out of the trauma. When you see yourself in it and you can speak against it and speak out, do so then. And again, that's hard when you're younger, because again, I say current day truly would have fought that C. You telling me I need to hurry up and get over this death. We gonna fight now. Mm-hmm. That's current day. Mm-hmm. Say that to me at 18. Say that to me at 19. Right. All that's getting internalized.
Totally different.
Right. And so it's hard. And I think we are in a position to start really feeding that idea into our students of, hey, actually, it's okay. Mm-hmm. Like, feel how you feel. Understand you may have responsibilities that you need to try to stay on top of. But if you need to talk about it, I'm here.
Yes, that's...
Even if you just want to talk about the sky being blue and that's your distraction, that helps get you on track, then baby, come talk to me about the sky. We can talk about it. That's fine.
Yes.
I got office hours. Come through. Do that. Mm-hmm. But I think it starts on our end. Those of us who are aware of having been put in that position with trauma, and we can see it and we can see how things can be shifted, that we start shifting it. Mm-hmm. Because for some of these people who are like our colleagues, not to be like that, but for some of them, it is too late. So our best course of action is to get to these students and be like, hey, it's okay. It's okay to speak up. I always tell students, they don't be taking me up on it all the time. Not surprisingly, really though. But I'd be like, you can check me if I'm wrong. Like if I just dead ass lied on you, check me. Like it's fine. Like if I tell you, yeah, no, we did this last class, and you're like, but we didn't though. We actually did this. Say that.
Yeah.
Like I want you to get comfortable enough with me that you can respectfully say to me, actually, what we did was this.
Right.
And that's the emphasis, is that you do it respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, because students deserve respect also. That's another type of trauma there, because they smooth get taught that no, they don't. And I'm like, no, you're a person. You deserve respect. Now, understand how I deal with you will not be how I deal with another adult. Understand that. But I will respect you and your autonomy. I'm like, that's fine. I was like, but you want to break bad and talk grown? We can talk grown. And then you're going to be sad for real. But respect is warranted, period. From birth until death. That respect is warranted. My thing, I was trying to do updates just at random. It'd be making me nervous. I'm like, don't do that right now. Like, don't play me. Like, don't do that. We doing good. Okay. But yes. It's sad that these are things that need to get handled, and that it's not handled on a wide enough scale where those who keep perpetuating trauma are in the like true minority of it. But at least there are steps being made, and there are those of us who care enough to really try to make those strides and at least make sure that we're not contributing, or if we do contribute, that we're willing to learn how to not. Because I know I say sideways shit all the time. I'll be like, yo, get me if I say it. Like, let me know. Like, because sometimes to me, and again, back to this earlier point, to me, something that is not traumatic may be to you. And if we have a space where communication is able to be open, and you know that you can come and let me know, like, okay, so when you said XYZ, I felt a type of way because I've been dealing with blah, blah, blah. I was like, even if you're not given the details, just to be able to say, hey, yo, when you said this, though, that was kind of hurtful. Because I'm the first to be like, yo, I'm sorry. Like, I did not intend that. Like, so please accept my apology. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen again. But there needs to be that space, and both parties need to be able to have that dialogue. And the person on the offending end needs to be able to be like, okay, yeah, I was wrong.
Yes.
And then don't do that shit again. Like, don't do it to the next one. Don't just be like, oh, okay, well, Ariana was upset about it, so I ain't gonna say it to her, but I'm gonna just keep telling Daryl whatever. No, like, once you brought it to my attention, then across the board, I need to be conscious of, okay, now I know that this is something that can be taken this way. Let me not do that. Because it's a guarantee, if it offends you, it's gonna offend somebody else. So let me just grow from that and be a better person.
Need you to say all that again one more time.
And louder for the people in the back.
It's like, hey, y'all.
Those people in the back. Because I'm just sitting here like,
Because, there's a lot of people who... Also, before we go, I do want to say that my students hate when I say it, because it is out of pocket. And I know it is, because it's not necessarily a true statement. And I usually give a disclaimer after the fact. But I'm a good one for always saying silence is consent. And they be like, that's not really true. I was like, exactly. So speak up if you can. I was like, because what most people are going to see is that, well, you didn't say no, you didn't argue, you didn't push back. So you're good. I'm like, get to a place where you're comfortable saying, nah, my guy. I was like, even if you can't really like fight on it, be able to walk away. Be able to remove yourself. Do whatever it is you need to do and that you can do to get out of a situation. Like, shit, my high schools, I'm like, walk the hell out if you need to. Now, please understand, there may be consequences that come with it. And that's childhood to adulthood. There will be natural consequences. However, if you know something is getting to you to a point, if you're not comfortable speaking up, try to remove yourself. So at least then maybe you can gather and be like, okay, I know I'm about to probably walk back into some bullshit. Let me have at least some words prepared. Or I'm a good one. I'll go tell on you. I don't mind. I'll go up the chain. I don't care. I'm like, all right, this is what was said. I copy everybody on emails. I'm good for it. I don't mind.
That's me.
But that silence piece, because like, is it really consent all the time? Not at all. I was like, but you got to understand, that's how people read it. And someone will always be good to say, but you didn't say, you didn't tell me, you didn't speak up, you went along with.
Always somebody.
And so definitely not victim blaming at all, because I've been on that side more times than I want to recount. But my takeaway has been, I have learned to say something. And even if it has to be to someone not related to the situation, that you feel safe enough to say it to them, say something.
Say it.
Get it out. Flip side of that, though, don't just be saying shit and ain't no shit happen. Don't be that person. Yeah. Don't fuck it up for those of us who something legit happened to. Ain't nothing happened to your ass, and you out here making up some stories. And now, whenever somebody really comes forward with something that happened, nobody want to listen because you're raggedy ass. So don't be that person. Let me put that in the atmosphere, because I don't like those people. Yeah. Those be the people. I'm just like, why would you? Why would you? And does it suck that it happens like that? Yes, it does. But reality is, all it takes is one person to fuck it up. And now nobody's story gets to get listened to. Like the Me Too thing. And then the people who decided that they were going to just take advantage of that moment. And I'm like, some of us are legitimate survivors of rape. Some of us are. Some of us are legitimate survivors of domestic violence. And y'all somehow just managed to turn this into a people really ain't gonna try to listen because you thought it would be funny or you thought it would be cute to get attention. I was like, first the fuck of all, we usually don't say nothing because we don't want the attention. That's why we didn't say anything. And we don't think anyone's going to believe us. And you just cemented that for a lot of those naysayers of, well, this is why we don't listen. I'm like, well, now we really ain't gonna say nothing. And so now you're really going to have even more people suffering in silence because your raggedy ass wanted some attention. Go get some fucking attention doing something else. Go suck a dick or something. I don't care what you do, but go get your attention some other type of way. So just want to also put that disclaimer on there also.
Valid.
Yes.
As a survivor of things.
Valid.
Just want to put that out there because I can't stand those people. I'm like, trauma is real.
It's so real. It's lasting. It's awful. It's real.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you all for joining us here yet again at Dance Talk Realness. But I know, right? This felt all these feelings because I'm like, ooh, that makes me mad. But if you have any questions, comments, observations, or anything for our guests, for us, feel free to drop us a line. Be sure to like, comment, follow, subscribe across all the places where you can find us. We look forward to bringing you some fresh new content next week. We'll see you then. Bye.
Bye.